Hello. We're halfway through. By the time you see this, you'll be well into Module 3, which is one of my more comfortable modules because the work that I've done in my years as a sociologist basically relied on grounded theory. Our job was to do the things like focus groups, like participant observation, like other kinds of group activities, some of which we were participants in, some of which were simply observers. And then we would use grounded theory. And the utility of the grounded theory, much of your reading makes it sound like we're developing new theory. And in education, sometimes we are developing new theory. In the sociology, which has been around as a theoretical construct for many years, much of what we did was to validate that theories that had been around for a while were still reliable, dependable, people could objectify what they saw, or were there some fine-tuning elements that came out? So anyway, I'm very happy with this one. You're going to find that as it says in your syllabus, you're looking at now not at individuals as you did so much in phenomenology, as you're looking at groups of people. And one of the things that the groups of people tend to do is to develop a sense of the reality of their lived experiences. And that's kind of important because some of us come up with for us being sociologists, come up with the idea that if people define a situation as real, then it has real consequences for them. The sociologists that looked at that, oh God, almost 100 years ago, did a good bit of the first grounded theory work. And it's still true. You would ask people, why do they define the situation the way they define it? And they said, well, that's just how it is. That's how our experiences tell us it is. And your assignments will let you do that. The slides I put in for this particular module are designed to get you ready for your last module. They're designed to give you a quick refresher course in a lot of the tools that you will be using. And I think that's important because the tools in qualitative research tend to be a touch more abstract than those you would find in quantitative. So go through them and be comfortable with them. Now, what you're being asked to do in your major assignment in this particular unit is to examine how moving from one social situation to another social situation tends to engage a process called resocialization. Now, that's a big term, and all that it really means is you are defining a part of your existence differently. Are you going to look for different norms? You're going to look for that different definition of what is real and important. You're going to take a different phenomenological perspective on the people you work with because it's new for you. The thing that becomes interesting with this is then you're looking at a higher order thinking process called linking your personal values with the new norms. And that can be a little bit off-putting sometimes, as our British colleagues would say. Okay, like I said, there's a lot in one of those on the focus group, which is what you're going to do. Your major assignment is to meet with a couple of friends. Ideally, it would help if they were people that you work with, that you know well, because in that regard, the collaboration, the shared reality, the trust, if you will, is there. So anyway, that's what we want you to look at. Okay, a couple things I want you to be aware of is one of the things that is stated, it's in the syllabus, but I think it's very important that I make the point again, and that is that you're going to get permission. I don't necessarily think that you're working with friends, that it's going to be critical that you have a signed sheet. But remember, if this type of research becomes part of your dissertation, or maybe even part of another course that you may take, you've got to have those permission sheets. I have a format, if any of you ever need it, send me an email. Maybe you already have some. I have a format that I've used for years that seems to pass. And one of the most important things when you're moving into your, moving from your concept paper toward actually getting it approved for your dissertation is those particularly if you're using any kind of grounded theory, any kind of research questionnaire technique, interview technique, you're going to have to go to the IRB, and they're going to want to see that you have those forms. In fact, one of the things they may very well want to do is to critique the forms. So my suggestion always is, before you go to the IRB, have your forms, but don't have your interviews completed, because they may want to make some slight changes. It's frustrating, I know, but that's sort of how it goes. Second thing you need to work on, which is important, is when you're writing up the results of a grounded theory experience, you need to split. Part of it is going to be reporting what you found. Part of it is going to be your own personal analysis, where you interpret and evaluate what the outcome was of what you were doing. So my suggestion in that case is do a little self-analysis first. What does that mean? That means do a value audit for yourself. Why did you pick the issue? Why did you write your questions the way you wrote them? Why did you set that design up in such a manner that you got what you got? As long as you're working closely with clear understanding of your values, then you're not going to have any problem with any of this. It's going to be fairly easy to do. So I would appreciate you doing that. The third thing, again, which we've already talked a little bit about, is back to this anonymity issue. Now, what does that mean? That simply means that when you're writing this up, let's say Mary Jones, John Smith, and Peter North are all in your group, you do not mention them by name. Most researchers in this type of grounded work will tell you it's okay to use a first name, but if there's any opportunity for someone looking at it to want to delve more deeply into what you're doing, and they might know the group that you interviewed, then we certainly don't want you using even the first name. You can categorize them by their role. Subject X is an evaluation specialist. Subject Y is a faculty member. Subject D is the department head or the director that comes out of this particular environment that you're doing. So from my perspective, that's the sort of thing I think you will find most helpful. Not really a whole lot more to say about that. I will say just a little bit about the procedures in the course. Most of you are staying right on top of what you're doing, and I think that's very, very critical. As I've said in several communications with you, 5 weeks when it starts seems like it's going to be forever, and here we are already in the middle. So don't let yourself get behind. The assignments that we collectively have agreed to give in Module 5 will require a great deal of time compared to some of the other assignments. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about Module 5. And I'm loading a little of Module 5 into my material in Module 4 because basically we may not really need to have a YouTube for Module 5. I'll say more about that when we do Module 4. So again, I'm only as far away as the telephone or the email. Let me know if you need anything. I've tried to provide you with a lot of flexibility. A couple of you have come up with alternative suggestions for these assignments. I think that's great. The more that you own this process, the more that this material is yours, not just something that is a response to somebody else's thinking, the better this will be for you when you get into concept paper and eventually dissertation. Well, enjoy. It is a fun module. And like I said, I've had a great deal of success with it over a long, and as I've said before, very checkered career.